This is Ottawa Today with Mark Sutcliffe.
Welcome back to Ottawa Today. She calls herself the gun goddess on social media. She is now the chair of a new organization called the Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights, and she says the debate around firearms in this country has to change. Tracey Wilson joins us on Ottawa Today. Good afternoon.
Hi, Mark. Thanks a lot for having me. I just wanted to thank the show for their interest in speaking with us, because it is time for a new conversation about an old topic here in Canada.
So why is it time for a new conversation, and what do you want that conversation to look like?
What we're looking for is just an honest, rational, mature discussion about firearms in Canada. A lot of the rhetoric that's been, tossed around for years about this topic is it's dated, it's aged. There's millions of us in this country. We're everyday folks, and we just want to be treated a little more fairly. And we are looking for a safer Canada. But that safer Canada involves some actual legislation that will have an effect on crime,
And the legislation that's being proposed these days would not have an effect on crime? Is that what you're saying?
You can legislate law-abiding firearm owners all you want. That does absolutely nothing for crime. And in my opinion, the politicians, that's their duty, is to ensure the safety of Canadians. And, making fluffy laws about people who are already law-abiding does nothing other than, it's a facade. I'd like to see some tough action taken against crime, and against, gang crime and, all other levels of crime, and just a little more fair treatment for law-abiding folks like us.
So what tough action would you like to see against criminals, including, obviously, criminals who use guns?
Well, I mean, that's something for lawmakers to figure out. That's the politician's job, is, to make us safe. I think by, legislating law-abiding people and presenting it as a public safety measure, is actually irresponsible. So, I'm not sure what that looks like. They would have to be involved with, LEO and other different organizations that deal with that. But the way they're doing it now is, they're pulling the wool over Canadians' eyes, making them think that they're doing something to protect your safety, and meanwhile they're not.
So give me an example of that. What are they doing to law-abiding gun owners that is being presented as a solution for public safety but isn't?
Okay, I've got a perfect example for you. Just recently, the RCMP reclassified the Ruger 1022 magazines, the 25 round ones. So what these are, they're often referred to as banana mags. So these are a magazine that fits inside the Ruger 22 rifle, which is, fairly low caliber rifle. It's not much more powerful than, a BB gun or, airsoft, that type of thing. There are over 100,000 people estimated in this country who own that magazine. There's approximately 1 million of them floating around. So with this, stroke of a pen, the RCMP, who should be working on enforcing laws rather than making them, that should be left to lawmakers. But besides that, with the stroke of a pen, they've essentially created 100,000 paper criminals who have done nothing wrong. We've owned them for 30 years. It's never been an issue. There's no solid evidence to show that any crimes have been committed with them. But they're using terminology like high capacity magazines, for a gun that most kids grew up, clinking tin cans with in the back 40. So I'd like to know what public safety, presence is that going to create? Absolutely none. In fact, do they even have the capability of dealing with 100,000 new criminals? A lot of people don't even know that new restriction's been put in place, and those magazines have been deemed prohibited. So, you're putting yourself in jeopardy, getting yourself in a lot of trouble over something that, no good came of this. None.
Where do you think public opinion stands on this? Because I think there's a dynamic in Canada that politicians tend to play towards a gun control audience, whereas in the United States, politicians tend to play towards the gun rights audience. Is that fair to say?
Well, that's exactly right. See, you've got politics, media, no offense, Hollywood. You've got all these influential, contributors who paint a picture of the way it is. Meanwhile, that's not the truth, and that's what we're out for. We're out for just to show, that's not the way things are here in Canada. We don't have problems. There's almost 2.5 million of us. If there was a problem, you'd know it. The crime that is committed, with using a firearm is not committed by us. So legislating us, although for public appearance, it looks like they're working on something. Really, they're not. And that's a greater issue even than just the stigma attached to being a firearms owner.
So how are you going to fight that? Because it strikes me that you're probably fighting an uphill battle against public opinion in this country.
Well, an old friend once said to me, we're not exactly selling Girl Guide cookies here. We're selling gun rights. So yeah, you're completely right, Mark. It is a tough sell. People don't want to open their minds and their hearts to the truth that we're just everyday people. We're teachers, we're lawyers, we're school bus drivers, we're soccer coaches. We're just everyday people. We're not these, dark, scary images that Hollywood presents us as. So yeah, it's definitely a tough sell. I think part of that, part of the solution to that is what we're doing here right now, talking to me. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm just a regular person in the community. I work at a law firm. I'm really not all that exciting. Yet women are the number one growing sector of our sport. So, just shedding some light on the actual truth and, the healthy gun culture that Canada does have. I think that'll go a long way. And that's the mission of the CCFR.
The president of the Coalition for Gun Control said, I think it's putting lipstick on a pig. It's still basically a pig, in a quote in the Ottawa Citizen. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I personally, as a woman and, a woman in my community who, donates a lot of her time and her effort towards causes, I think if that's the way we're going to talk about each other, that's not having an open, honest discussion at all. If Wendy wanted to have an open, honest, mature discussion about the actual facts, she would have been doing that for a long time now, and she hasn't. So, it's a little insulting, but that's exactly what we expect from, the rabid anti-gun left people. That's exactly what it is. In fact, I've had an onslaught of, nasty messages and emails and even death threats in the last 24 hours. And, like I said, I'm just a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm a working lady. I just like to go to the range and I hunt. But
you've actually had death threats?
Oh, yeah. And this is the thing here is that as firearm owners, we're painted as, these violent, scary people. And the most terrifying people to me are these rabid anti-gun leftists who, I had one gentleman on the Ottawa Citizen link tell me that I should put the end of my gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. Like, what is that the way that we're going to talk to each other? It sort of makes me think that society in general has a greater problem. Like the moral decay is just, it's a little terrifying. So yeah, I think, I'm in the league of the most safest Canadians there are. My name's run through CPIC every single day to ensure that I'm safe, law-abiding, upholding the laws of the country. We know I'm safe, but I'm not so sure about these other people. So it's a little terrifying.
Tracey Wilson, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Mark. And anybody interested can join our organization at www.firearmrights.ca.
All right, thank you. Tracey Wilson, chair of the board of the Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights.